It is the morning of April 15th, 1945. As exhausted British soldiers storm through the iron gates of Bergen-Belsen concentration camp, a new horror is unveiled to the world, a vision so nightmarish it defies belief. Where grass should grow, corpses lie like broken dolls. Emaciated survivors crawl among the dead, pleading for water, sanity decimated. 13,000 decomposing bodies litter the wasteland. Nearly 60,000 barely living souls are released into freedom. That for many comes too late. Typhus, tuberculosis, wounds, starvation. Soon thousands more will die, even after the liberators arrive. Among the SS guards forced to witness the aftermath of their violence is a young woman whose name will echo as loudly as any monster in history. Her victims called her the Hyena of Auschwitz and the beautiful beast. Her name is Irma Grese. Before you scroll away, this is not just another history lesson. This story will shake your spirit, confront your empathy, and leave you questioning humanity itself. Hit like, subscribe, and join the Timeless Words community as we expose the harrowing truth behind one of WW2's most infamous war criminals and witness her final reckoning at the gallows. From innocence to indoctrination, born October 7, 1923, in rural Recken, Germany, Irma Grese grew up during a time when hope struggled to survive. Her parents toiled on dairy farms. Life was modest, hard, and governed by strict Christian discipline. But even such humble beginnings couldn't protect Irma from the darkness spreading within the German soul after World War I. When Hitler seized power in 1933, Nazi propaganda flooded every corner of German life. The Hitler Youth and the League of German Girls promised belonging, pride, and purpose. Even as her father refused to let his children join, warning them of the evil master's patriotism, Irma and her siblings were subjected daily to a curriculum that had swapped knowledge for hate. Instead of lessons, they learned doctrine, the worship of a man they'd never met, and the rejection of anyone different. These years twisted Irma's reality. School was a battleground not of grades but ideology. Her mother's tragic suicide, following her father's affair, only intensified the trauma, a wound that forever stunted Irma's emotional development. Friends recalled a hopelessness in her eyes, a girl gradually withdrawing from empathy itself, adrift. Searching for meaning in a toxic world, Irma left formal education young, bullied and ostracized, escaping to farms and then a retail shop. By 15, she'd become a nurse's aide at the Hohenlichen Sanatorium, a place that would nurture neither compassion nor healing. Dr. Karl Gebhardt, who oversaw it, was notorious for his partisan loyalty and sadistic medical experiments. Under his orders, in later years, women at Ravensbrück would have their bones broken and infected, their bodies mutilated for spurious scientific research. Denied advancement for her poor academics, Irma was forced to work on another dairy farm. The opportunity for authority, the power to control, became a craving. When offered the chance to train as an SS female guard, she took it eagerly. Ravensbrück, where cruelty was taught, Ravensbrück concentration camp was no ordinary prison. It was an industrial killing machine, built for the explicit purpose of mass suffering. As one of hundreds of female guards, Irma learned brutality from Dorothea Binz, a trainer whose sadism was legendary. Survivors' accounts describe how SS guards competed in cruelty, inventing new ways to torment the helpless. Irma was a star pupil. At first, she mimicked others, flogging the weak, barking orders, disrupting sleep and food. But she soon surpassed even her mentors, developing vicious new punishments. When prisoners collapsed, she'd set starving dogs upon them, watching the carnage with unsettling pleasure. Medical doctors performed monstrous experiments. Subjects were infected, cut, or sterilized without anesthetics. Irma sometimes assisted these procedures, witness to pain that would traumatize anyone, except those who had surrendered all empathy. When she returned home briefly, boasting about overseeing prisoners, her father beat her and drove her away. Now fully untethered from normal human connection, Irma sought out even greater power. Auschwitz. Reign of the Hyena in March 1943. Irma Grese arrived at Auschwitz-Birkenau, the core of the Holocaust's killing machine. This was the heart of systematic murder and unthinkable suffering. Most guards were men, but the SS needed women to direct and police the vast swathes of female prisoners, Hungarian, Polish, Czech, Roma, Russian, and Jewish women whose only crime was existence. By 20, Irma had become senior supervisor of Camp C, commanding over 30,000 souls. Eyewitness testimony from her trial unearthed a chilling reality. Irma had the power to choose who lived and who died. She wielded a whip, pistol, and truncheon, her tools of terror. Prisoners described her forcing inmates to make sport, sadistic physical exercises designed to break their bodies and spirits. Some days these tortures left the ground slick with blood. Her heavy boots were remembered as weapons in their own right, used to crush the sick and the weak into submission. She was also infamous for her sexual predation. Survivor Olga Lengyel and Dr. Gisela Pearl noted how Irma, bored of her lovers, male or female, invariably sent them to the gas chambers as special treatment. Pearl wrote that Grese seemed to take sexual pleasure inflicting horror, agony during her own sadistic rituals. Irma displayed jealousy, bordering on hatred towards attractive female inmates. She would select the most beautiful for extermination, sometimes documenting their deaths with morbid pride. Yet shockingly, there are stories of her saving certain girls, like Alice Tenenbaum, simply because they reminded her of family, flashes of conflicted humanity in a sea of evil. Bergen-Belsen, descending further into horror in January 1945. The Soviet army advanced on Auschwitz. SS personnel, including Irma Grese, evacuated, forcing tens of thousands of prisoners on death marches through snow and ice. Those who collapsed were shot on sight. With them, Grese arrived at Bergen-Belsen in March. Her final station of cruelty, Bergen-Belsen, was a hellscape. By April, the camp held over 40,000 prisoners in conditions so dire, British liberators compared it to scenes from the apocalypse. Bodies piled in heaps, food was non-existent, and the epidemic of typhus felled thousands more. Survivors remembered the average daily death toll as 250, 300 people in the final month. Yet even here, Grese did not relent. Prisoners testified that she forced women to kneel on stone for hours, stripped them, beat them with rubber truncheons, and presided over punitive exercise that killed many. She seemed to enjoy the sight of blood, recalled one eyewitness. Women and girls were ordered to march, run, or crawl until collapsing, a routine described in multiple post-war memoirs. Grese's abuses felt like she was intoxicated by suffering, wrote another former inmate. Liberation arrived too late for thousands, but for Grese, the end was near. The collapse and her final days after British forces liberated Bergen-Belsen. They forced SS guards to dig mass graves, an act of humiliation and reckoning. A few days later, Irma Grese was captured, her legend as a beautiful, unrepentant sadist, already circulating among the military journalists. Interviewed by a British reporter, she claimed, "It was our duty to exterminate antisocial elements so that Germany's future would be assured." There was no remorse, no apology, just ideological conviction right to the end. Belsen trial, the face of evil unmasked in September 1945. The world watched as the British convened the first major war crimes tribunal, the Belsen trial. 45 defendants, including Grese, stood accused. Testimony before a packed courtroom exposed layers of moral depravity. Survivors described scenes so shocking that tribunal officials wept. Some guards sickened, fainted hearing them. Irma Grese's demeanor was icy, sometimes derisive. She denied all murder charges, admitting only to beatings. Her attitude, unapologetically dismissive, even condescending, cemented her infamy before the world. When asked about shootings and selections for the gas chambers, she phrased her answers in bureaucratic language, cold and void of the emotional response most human beings would exhibit. The verdict arrived on November 17, 1945. Guilty. Grese was sentenced to death by hanging, one of 3 women to receive that penalty, a testament to the severity and visibility of her crimes. The gallows. Justice delivered, December 13, 1945. The morning's quiet in Hamelin prison masked the drama unfolding inside. Executioner Albert Pierrepoint was tasked with gallows justice. Irma Grese was led from her cell at 9:34 a.m., eyes unblinking, her smile faintly present. Pierrepoint placed the white cap over her head. In her calm, languid voice she uttered her only word, "Schnell." Quickly, the trap opened. Grese dropped. 20 minutes later, Doctors declared her dead. She was 22 years old, the youngest woman ever executed under British law that century. Her body was buried in an unmarked grave, her name now a symbol of absolute evil. Survivor testimony. Trauma that never fades, the shockwaves of Grese's crimes did not end with her life. Holocaust survivors have shared their stories for decades, reliving the agony and horror she inflicted. She was one of the most beautiful women I ever saw, her clear blue eyes, her angelic face. But she carried death with her wherever she went. Recalled Dr. Gisela Pearl, "She beat my mother to death for speaking to me. Her leather whip never stopped," wrote Edith Trieger. Irma chose the prettiest girls for the gas chambers out of jealousy. Sometimes she saved one, only to later destroy her. "There was no logic, only cruelty," testified Olga Lengyel. When women could go no further, her dogs tore at them, and she would laugh as the blood spilled, remembered Abraham Glinowiecki. Such memories have haunted survivors for lifetimes, proof that evil doesn't only kill, sometimes it lingers. The psychology of evil, how ordinary people become monsters. Irma Grese's descent is a warning to all generations. She began as a child seeking purpose, traumatized by family and society. Nazi ideology filled her emptiness, offering not just belonging, but a license to express her darkest impulses. As Hannah Arendt once wrote, "Evil is often banal, unremarkable people corrupted by obedience and the seduction of ideology." But Grese wasn't only swept along. She made choices. Countless times she could have resisted, shown mercy or walked away. Instead, she stoked the machinery of suffering. Her story demonstrates how hate and cruelty, when normalized, can mutate into something unfathomable. Reflection. Lessons for the present. Why tell this story? And why now? Because history, for all its horror, is also a teacher. Irma Grese's crimes are not just reminders of how depraved humanity can become, but warnings against every form of extremism and blind obedience. Genocide begins with words, propaganda, bullying, small permissions granted until conscience dies and the machine starts. It's up to each of us today to recognize the signs and never allow the normalization of hate, regardless of the era, nation, or cause. Call to action. Stand for truth. If this story has shaken you, share it. Let your friends, your family, your community know that history is not just dusty memory, but a living lesson. Subscribe to Timeless Words for the most powerful stories of courage, tragedy, survival, and justice. Hit like and leave a comment. What surprised you most about the story of Irma Grese? How do you believe we can prevent such evil from returning? Together, we ensure that those silenced by monsters like Irma Grese are never forgotten. Thank you for watching. Here at Timeless Words, truth has no expiration date.